All right, Park, are you there?
Yep.
My friend, you've won the contest. You've been elected as the person who gets to tell the joke for this meeting.
A joke?
Yeah, you gotta tell the joke. Man, you put a dad joke in every one of your applications you ever sent to me. You can't think of something on the fly?
Okay. Why are spiders so smart?
Why is that?
Because they find everything on the web.
Rip. All right, that's all I needed.
I laughed way harder than I should have. It's too bad I was muted. I
Absolutely
got you,
terrible.
bro.
All right. Well, I'll tell everybody, New Year. And it is good to be back with you all. So we are going to return slightly. We're working up to it, but returning back to our kind of regular cadence, our regular programming for our events. I see a couple of my professors who have joined in kind of as we've been going. So just make sure you do the request to speak, and we can bring you up. Um, and that way, if we need you to address anything on the fly, you're already up here. We don't have to bring you up after the fact. But it's good to be back with everybody. Good to be in front of you all. I'm sure you've all missed the long, protracted sounds of my voice during these meetings, and I do promise that. If for no other reason, then it is our first meeting back, first meeting in the new year, and an expansion to talk about. I can't promise this will be particularly brief, but we do have some really important points to cover with you all. The agenda is laid out much as it always is and will continue to be. So we'll hit on some of the general finer points of guild administration, talk about the leadership updates, which I know everybody's pings were inundated with last week, with many new faces joining us, heading things up. So we'll talk about that, what that all means in terms of guild programming and things to come. Talk about the Discord setup for folks who might be newer, which it looks like we've got a pretty significant number of new faces. If this is your first guild meeting with us, actually, it would be really helpful if you can just put a wave emoji into the chat for us. So if you're tuning in and just trying to get kind of familiar with the guild and some of that information, that'd be really helpful if I can see who's in that category. That way we can get you up to speed on the way we do things here. And so we definitely have a few. So welcome to all those new folks. So everybody, we can spare a couple of minutes out of this meeting, and you'll bear with me as we talk about some information which some people may already be familiar with. So for just as a background information on the guild, for those of you who are new, the guild was started on the first day of the existence of the server. So the launch day for Anniversary Realms, Adept Scholars Society was founded. It was founded by Minari and I, along with one of our other friends who's since moved on from the game. We've operated through all of vanilla, keeping a rating presence through every phase of the game, having now completed 100% of all raid content in this expansion. At our height, we were about 3,300 members with 5 raid teams. And so we are pretty well organized and have a very good formula for how to operate a large guild, a successful guild, and we're looking to take our experience, especially Minari and I, who have a lot of experience in TBC leadership and rating, and to take what we found was a very successful formula for operations in vanilla, and to carry over, that secret sauce into the next expansion. To build on it with new folks. And so, if you're a new, please be aware, number one, you're not going to get lost in a sea. That, we do believe here that you can, that scale and substance are not mutually exclusive, that you can, be good and be large. And we have been, we'll continue to try to be living proof of that as we go on to the next expansion. Um, we are going to talk about some of our leadership changes now, so we'll get into just kind of the upper level, so changes at the department level that have been made. So first and foremost, we'll talk about our preceptors. So these are the highest level of officer. So these are basically just one step under me. I have a kind of a flow diagram that we'll get into in a second that'll kind of outline the leadership structure. But these are the top tier of officers in the guild. They can answer questions on 100% of what's going on in the guild at any time, but each one it runs their own department. I'll actually bring up the next slide. I think it's a little bit more illustrative of what I'm going to be talking about. So Minari runs the guild operations department. He has been transferred from strategic planning, which he has headed up for us for the last 14, 15 months he had been in that position. He is going to move over to guild operations where he'll run more of the clerical side of the guild now. So that's the things like our guild onboarding, our raid onboarding, and our requisition system, which will obviously now feature an actual guild bank in TBC, thank God. In player development, Civ has been promoted to the heading up the department of player development. Player development for the guild covers our class coaching system. Each class and viable raid spec will be assigned a class leader who will be in charge of one-to-one coaching sessions, both for our optional and for our mandatory coaching programs. Which we'll hit on later on in the presentation, I should mention. And then in strategic planning, Arainu, who was previously a professor of strategic planning, he was an assistant raid leader on Raid Team 5 and later on the flagship raid team. He is now taking up the mantle of preceptor and running strategic planning. That department is the head of all of our raid systems in the guild. So that is all of our raid leadership, assistant raid leadership, and our raid coordinators, which why don't I just head right into that right now. Carlington has remained on as a professor of strategic planning. He is likely going to continue on an assistant raid leader position in TBC, but we have two new additions to that department. Hits and Ebo both have been promoted to raid coordinators as professors of strategic planning. So you've now heard a new rank of professor talked about, and so just to clarify, professors are also officers in the guild. They just work within the department themselves, and as department professors, their area of expertise and what they cover is more specific to the departments specifically. So it's more in line with the actual day-to-day functions of those departments. In player development, it's a smaller department right now, but it will probably grow in the future. We have Martel as professor of player development. He is the training director, so I anticipate that while right now he and Siva both have been putting on events, or will be putting on events, we will probably have another event coordinator position to consider in the near future. But I expect the two of them to be doing great work putting on the events in the meantime. And then, as I had mentioned, our class coaching system, Martel will be working to head up that aspect. In guild operations, we have three professors of guild operations. Beardong, again, is our kind of institutional knowledge on that department. Been with the guild, I think, guild operations as an administrative clerk. He might have been one of the first administrative clerks that I think we promoted, if not the second. So he's been here a long time. He's excited to get into TBC and to keep getting the department going. We have Gop and Park, who have just recently been promoted to professors of guild operations. It was the first. I was right. I thought that was right. Yeah. So Berdon was the first administrative clerk. He sets the gold standard for everybody to follow. But yeah, so Park and Got both are now also ad clerks in the guild operations department. So we want to welcome all of our new promotions, congratulate all of our folks who have been put into the leadership role, and as we're building up speed towards TBC, we want to thank them for stepping up, and please be mindful for anybody interested in giving back in a leadership role. We will very likely reach out if you have an area that we kind of covered in one of those three departments, that you find rewarding or interesting. You may not need to be promoted to a professor. There might be a discrete project that we have working on that you might be able to volunteer to help with, or keep in mind if we do an announcement seeking interest in applications, that happens at kind of regular intervals as need. So as we build up speed, we'll probably be putting out the announcement looking for more folks in the next weeks heading into TBC. But for now, this is what the leadership structure looks like, and we're ready to rock on into this new content. Just to kind of recap, this slide's more summary than anything, but just as a note that, as I mentioned, preceptors and I can help you with everything. Professors generally can help you with HR type or community standards type issues, as well as those department inquiries. So I know we have a lot of those new folks who sent the wave out in chat. I'm assuming many of you may still be leveling in one of our two baby guilds, either Aspiring or Adorable Scholar Society. If that's the case, you are always welcome to use Discord as a hub to reach out to an officer. And if there's an issue that ever happens in either of those two baby guilds, you are more than welcome to seek out one of us to come help you. Professors, preceptors, and I all can take care of that. If you notify us, Discord's the best way to do that, though. I think there was something that had come up a couple days ago, which came to my attention. We try and be really responsive when things like that come up. But you notifying us is the best way to ensure that does happen. Other than that, these are what the departments work on and what they can help you with. I put this slide in every one of our meetings. I'm going to put it up here. It is a good reminder for folks that if you are looking for information related to the guild that I've told you exists, but you can't find it, chances are you're not following all of the channels in Discord, meaning you're literally missing whole sections of the server. This happens quite a lot. So you should go and follow these operations, click the channels and roles buttons, go to browse channel, and just click the follow category on every category of channel you see, because you will otherwise just simply miss things. And there's a lot going on, and it's always sad when folks miss things that they don't have to. So please be mindful to do this at regular intervals and to hit that follow category button. Move on to the server guide. This is still and remains our #1 resource. Some servers use it, some don't. We do. So our server guide has our rules and ranks. These are our general guild-wide policies, our community standards. Also gives information on the ranks, what the purpose of the ranks are, and kind of the outline of the guild structure. I'd mentioned about kind of the obviously I'm at the top of the food chain here, and then I have my preceptors and professors. Those are all members of what we call the tenure track. Tenure tracks include instructors, lecturers, professors, preceptors, and I. Underneath that are the rank and file members, which run from novice all the way through mentor. We do have several things tied to rank. So for instance, if you were looking to be promoted into the tenure track into a position like a class lead or professor in one of the departments, you would need to attain the rank of tutor, meaning one of the top two ranks in the rank and file, that's tutor or mentor. And then you can invite to the guild at rank scholar, which is the third rank, so it goes novice, acolyte, scholar, tutor, mentor in the rank and file. But there are things that are tied to ranks, and that information is available in that a summary in that tab as well. The raid rules and requirements is going to be revamped, but information there is there as well. That's really critical information if you're looking to raid with us. We do have a lot of set policies. I'm actually going to talk about that a little more in depth later on in this presentation. And then the links, apps, and resources is, again, I send people there almost every day, all the time. If your question is where can I find blank, the top line answer is it's in the server guide, because on one of these 3 pages it has it. But very often, if you're looking for a link for a document or a resource or something along those lines, the answer is links, apps, and resources. You click that, and it is essentially a compendium of all of the things that we use, share, guild documents. All of that information is all available in the server guide, so please make use of that. I put this out as an announcement a few times, but we try and show the guild pride here. So if you have the interest, this is how you would put the server tag on to your character. So just bear that in mind. The people ask where it is a lot of times, can't find it, but you see a couple people in the chat have it. When you send out your messages, get the Discord tag, and so you can enable it by just selecting the drop down at the top right by the Michael Scott GIF, and then selecting the server tag. Once you have it on, you feel free to send a message in the meeting hall so that you can see your name in all of its glory with our guild standard there. And then we're going to head into the news section. So this gets some very exciting stuff coming up in this section of the presentation, and I am first and foremost really impressed by some of the skills that we have in the higher levels of leadership now, including amongst them is a Rainu who is working diligently to develop our guild's add-on. We are going to create a guild internal add-on for group finding. The add-on will work across all 3 of our guilds. That is, this guild will be linked for all Scholar Society guilds. The intent behind this is if you were, for instance, to be leveling your, a new character. Let's say you want to start a priest or something on, and you put it into the Adorable Scholar Society, but you have your main character in Adept, and somebody starts a Hellfire Ramparts group. You obviously would run the risk, if it didn't get posted in Discord, that you wouldn't necessarily see that person looking to start that group. You might miss the opportunity, or conversely, the person making the Hellfire Ramps group might have trouble filling the roster, knowing that some people might be in the Baby Guild doing something. Maybe someone's starting a new shaman. And so what we're looking to do is to minimize the difficulty of group finding across 3 guilds by creating our own add-on that accomplishes the task and allows you not to miss a group. So it will show level appropriate dungeons that you can put in. It works very similarly to the guild, or to the game specific version of this. We'll add a couple of features. One of the important ones being that you'll need to be in the guilds to make it work, I believe. The development side of this is not my area of expertise. That would be a Rainu. I'm sure I'm going to dragoon him into making an update on the add-on to explain exactly how it works, and to answer the questions that you'll all inevitably have when someone finds a way to break it. But until then, we will thank him very much for all of his diligent work on this. I can tell you he's approached this with gusto that I didn't expect when I went up to him and I said, "Hey, don't you think it'd be great if we could have an add-on that did this?" And he said, "Yeah, you know what? Let's see exactly how we can make this work." Um, and this I'll give credit to Siva who helped with the brain child exercise that came up with this, and we've been kicking it around. So it's starting to come along. It is in testing. I know Bear Dong was helping you earlier in the testing on this. So I anticipate that this will be a great resource when we're all doing our dungeon grinding up through TBC content when it's released. I know a lot of people are intending on hitting the dungeons rather, save their quest to make the gold at 70 and to get the rep later on once they've made it up through some of the earlier rep parts. So this will be invaluable to that. So we want to really thank him for this work. Arenya, do you have anything you want to say on it now before I turn the slide while it's up here?
Oh, I don't want to bore anyone with any of the gruesome details, but I do feel like this is going to be a great resource for us to use going forward, especially since a lot of us are planning on dungeon grinding specifically to get to max level, so that way we can go back and reap the gold rewards for the quests that we can skip. So that's the plan. I'm building this as much for myself as I am for everyone else. It is kind of weird that I have more fun writing code than I do playing the game sometimes, but that's just the kind of nerd I am. Oh yeah, the haikus are for wipes. The haikus are for
Haikus
wipes.
are for wipes.
It's to keep the morale high.
Hopefully not many haikus then.
Well, I mean that's why it is a haiku. It increases morale. It'll be a low coup if it makes things go downhill.
Okay. The add-on, I believe, will be available via CurseForge, right? When it's ready for dissemination.
Yes, it's going to be published via CurseForge.
Okay, yeah, somebody had just asked that, I saw. All right, excellent. We're going to move into some of the TBC specifics because obviously we've been getting a lot of news coming out. So we're going to talk about the programming for TBC, the schedule of release, the information we know, the information we don't still know, what the guild's intentions are, when our dates are, both for roster announcements, for actual raid starting. We don't want anyone to feel rushed, so we'll talk about all of those as we're coming up here, and then we'll get into kind of the specifics on some of the policy things, and then by the end of this meeting, I may not have answered every single one of your questions, but I will have given you at least a date certain where you can expect to have those questions answered. So that is what I want you to be able to hold me to by the end of this meeting. If I can't answer a question directly with a specific answer by a date certain, which you will know, you will have that answer at that time. So just please be mindful as we go through this that there are some things we're working on because we want to be diligent. We want to be measured and take care in choosing how we're approaching an entire expansion for the guild. But we also recognize that that can yield some anxiety and discomfort in members who are, waiting with bated breath on the start of a very exciting time in the game. So, in balancing those two factors, that's the expectation out of this meeting. So, let's start with what we do know. So in TBC, the pre-patch has been announced for the 13th. The announcement today, if you didn't see it, announced that the game will be shut down as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the 12th, not anticipated to be up again until 6 p.m. Eastern on the 13th. The 5th is going to be the launch, so we get about 2 weeks on a pre-patch, or is that 3 weeks? For 2.5 weeks, I think, right? It's a Thursday to a Tuesday or something like that. Or vice versa. So, or maybe it is 3 weeks. Yeah, it
It's
might be
almost 3
exactly
weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah. So the pre-patch will be out on the 13th. February 5th is when Burning Crusades will launch. So that's when the Dark Portal opens. Everyone goes through and we start the Mad Dash to 70. February 19th is the anticipated date for the launch of Phase 1 raid content, according to today's post. I'm skeptical, but notwithstanding that, I do not want to run into either of two situations. And so, for that purpose, we have extended our raids launch to the 3rd. Here's the reason why. Number one, because the people who are leveling quickly will be met with officers at level 70 who will help to coordinate raids during those two initial lockouts. So they will not miss a beat when you get there. There will be things to do. Kara groups I anticipate running in these 2 weeks for sure, with signups for perhaps ad hoc, at least an ad hoc Gruel Mag run in each of those lockouts. But knowing that for us, the first raid lockout of the guild means 50 raiders that need to be 70 with, reasonable pre-raid gear. Doesn't need to be the greatest in the world, but reasonable is the word I will use very carefully. We want to make sure that people do not feel under pressure, are not letting other responsibilities slip just in pursuit of the game. And we want to make sure that everyone has an enjoyable experience in the early content, and also has time with a more relaxed environment for the people who maybe have a little more time that they can put in. No one should feel under the gun to get to 70, to get attunements done, and to prepare for raiding with the guild. Having said that, once we begin in earnest, and once the gas is on, we're going to be going all the way through to the end, much as we did this last expansion. So some March 3rd is going to be the date to look out for us for the first raid night, with our core raid teams, with our designated teams. So now that we've kind of got the outline of the next 7.5 or so weeks laid out, I want to take a minute, kind of walk back to January 13th and the next couple of weeks that we have directly in front of us. So to start with, the guild's going to be hosting a Patch Notes and Pints event. So again, this is player development Civa and Martell are coordinating this, but we're going to bring everybody on board. If you were around in the very, very beginning of the guild, we had I used to have a guild event every Friday called Rum Night Friday, where we would get together. We would drink. It was named after my traditional rum and coke on those evenings, and so we would drink from 7 o'clock Eastern, very often until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. While we were leveling up to 60, it continued on, and then we started raiding, and they eventually fell off once we had a group that was raiding on Friday nights. So but for several months we kept that tradition up, and in homage to that tradition, we are bringing back some of the spirit of that with this patch kickoff event for TBC. We will expect to have a great number of shamans who are going to be leveled, though perhaps not as many, and we'll get to that in a minute, as we might have otherwise thought. But there's some new, obviously the new abilities, specs, a lot of things should be available to us on that pre-patch day, and so we want to get everybody together in the lobby. Again, if you're drinking water, if you're drinking beer, if you're not drinking at all, please feel free to join us for this event. We'll put stuff together. We're going to have locks organized to help summon some folks away from the Exodar and some of the chaos that'll be happening over there, and then kind of just exploring what's been released. So please keep that in mind for the 13th. Obviously, one of the things that can screw this up tremendously for us is that Blizzard may completely miss the release, and with a 24-hour maintenance heading out before that event, I'm perhaps not as hopeful that we'll make the 7 p.m. start. But whether the game is up or not, our Discord will be working. So please join us at 7 on the 13th for that Patch Notes and Pints event. Um, we'll move into some of the TBC roster information. Again, the next date that I have available for you coming up is the 11th, January 11th. I believe that's this next Monday coming up. And that Monday is going to be the date of notice for all of our flagship raid members. So that was our raid team, our next raid team members in our 40-man who are continuing on with us into TBC. You will all have your notice on assignments and character selection by January 11th. So that will include the notice date. So through the day on the 11th, I anticipate Guild Operations reaching out to all of you with a notice of your assignments for the teams. Obviously, if you're not aware of this fact yet, for our newer members, there is a TBC survey available in the announcements channel in the Discord. You'll want to make your way there, fill out a survey, and that is what we are using currently to anticipate our roster, those who are going to be leveling up, and to kind of build those rosters and check availability moving into TBC. Eventually, and we'll make it a subsequent announcement to this, that survey will be retired as an informational program, and we will return back to a regular raid application that Guild Operations will track in order to place people onto teams. For those of you who are receiving a notice that day, there are one of two notices that you'll receive. Either, hey, we have your spot, that you responded that you were willing to play, X class in Y spec. We are going to give you that spot in accordance with the survey that you submitted. And then the second notice, which few people will receive, I can tell you, but some folks, I will tell you, were not flexible in what they were willing to play in their survey, which I respect to the extent that it's a game and you would like to play what you would like to play, but that also puts the onus on us to try and fit you in, and sometimes that's not a deliverable immediately. So in respect for those facts and that natural contention, I can tell you you will receive the following notice if you are one of the people, few, again, I will say, few people who might receive a notice that you were not immediately placed on one of those teams. The notice will let you know, number one, that you were not placed. Number two, that your first option is that you can wait, that you will be able to have priority in the order in which your survey was submitted to utilize that class and role which you particularly want to play, and you will be given first opportunity in line with your survey to do that on the next team that launches. And I'll talk about the launch schedule in the next slide. We'll talk about how many teams, when those teams will be starting, what that'll look like in a few minutes. The second option that you'll be given at the exact same time is a notice of the empty spots that we have on the roster for our higher need classes. And you will be given an opportunity at that time to indicate that you would be willing to play one of those. A couple of things to keep in mind as we have, as we did in vanilla, expansions are the time that you can class change and spec change. We're very diligent about making sure that the class and spec that you begin with a raid team carries on through the entire expansion, because we are incredibly mindful that the gear that you were given went to you because it didn't go to somebody else. And so we want to make sure that that gear keeps on giving, keeps giving back to the raid team. And so we do not allow swaps day to day, week to week, month to month. Expansions are where we change our mains, and the surveys were put out to let you voice that and make that selection now. Having indicated that, what you are put into is what it will be. So that's why we make it very clear on that survey to be very honest with yourself when you're filling it out about what you'd be willing to do and not to do. So that's the information for release for the 11th. Guild operations again will be the ones coming out with that information. So that's Gop, Park, and Bear. If you don't have them as friends in Discord, then you may end up getting a Discord message request. So I would just advise you that through the day on the 11th, that you please communicate with them either quickly when you see the message or to check your message requests frequently to make sure that information is responded to, because the other part of that in terms of picking, if you're one of the people that don't have a spot and you're needing to pick a new class based on what we have available, those available positions and classes and specs will be first come, first serve. They will be given to the people in the order in which they respond to guild operations members. So, if we have a Resto Chamois spot that didn't get filled that you're willing to put in for, but you are, miss the message because it sits in your requests and get back an hour or two later than somebody else, and the spot will have already been given away. So just please keep that in mind on the 11th when that information comes in. The survey is in the announcements channel. Yes, I just saw that question come in. That survey is available in the announcements channel. Perhaps somebody who is quick on their feet could grab the link and toss it into the meeting hall channel. That might be ideal. But otherwise, it is available in the announcements channel. I shared it Sunday morning, I believe. I will tell you TBC class viability. It speaks for itself. If anybody's looked at any of this, statistical data on performance or anything like that, but we need Destro Warlocks. Every raid team is going to carry a handful of Destro Warlocks, an Affy Warlock for the raid bonuses. There will be hunters, a handful of BM hunters, as well as a survival hunter. Again, really, TBC is not about world buffs in the way that vanilla is. TBC is about group synergy, and by maximizing raid wide buffs and class performance or in class abilities that can benefit the whole team. So that's how the group formations are informed. That's how our roster development is informed for what these static raids will look like. To that end, I will mention that Blizzard did announce today that they were changing what had originally been their position about boosts for the new races. That's Draenei and Blood Elves, and they now will be allowing those boosts. So I know it might have been a point of concern that you may not be able to have leveled fast enough. That might have hindered your willingness to maybe roll a shaman or play on a Draenei hunter if you wanted to go that route. But if you are able to afford a boost and you don't put yourself into financial straits to see it happening, but if you're in a position where you can get a boost and you're looking to play one of those classes, you'll have less stress now to do that. Don't add more stress to yourselves by spending money you don't have. I don't want to see anybody going into credit card debt for the game so that they can get a raid spot that they might not otherwise get. But having said that, if you are in a position to pursue that, and you do want to investigate that as an option, it'd help, I think, to get some of those more needed positions, namely the shamans, perhaps a Draenei hunter. If you're gonna go a warlock, you make sure you keep them little. You need those gnomes. Get the bonus. I think it's a natural 5% intellect if I have that right, and then paired with the hip bonus, they're top ranked warlocks by race. So make sure you make all your warlocks little. We'll go on to the structure for the raids now for the guild. This graphic is old. We anticipated originally, I think, being quite a bit bigger going into TBC, and we're almost very thankful that we're not, just knowing the logistics ahead. But this is illustrative of what the structure will look like, and so I didn't edit it just in the interest of time, and so that I can show you how the structure is going to be. So we're going to be talking a lot in TBC about raid pods. And when we talk about a raid pod, what we are talking about is a collection of 2 raid teams. 2 25-person raid teams makes 1 raid pod. So raid pod alpha will be made of 2 teams, alpha 1 and alpha 2. And those 2 teams will be running the exact same schedule. So alpha, alpha, the raid pod alpha will be the first pod off the ground in TBC. Raid pod alpha will have a Tuesday, Wednesday schedule. We're looking into the surveys a little more deeply to get into the raid start time. It is looking to be the same as we had it previously, as the 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern. We are, if we are going to change it, it would change to 8 Eastern to 11 Eastern, but that is subject to much more thorough review of the survey, so I don't want to freak anyone else out. It is probably status quo, but again, this is all information to anticipate for the 11th. Again, in line with the idea, is there anything Iranian can't do? He's been working on doing an SQL database for us to query a lot of this TBC data. Civ has been working diligently on doing survey analysis. Minari and I are going to be digging into it in part tonight, and then through the next couple of days. And so we're all hands at the controls right now to see this through. But once Raid Pod Alpha kicks off on March 3rd, right? Because now we're on that March 3rd date is when Raid Pod Alpha's first raid will be, is that Tuesday, March 3rd. Raid Pod Alpha nights will be the same for Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. The reason for that is because Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 are responsible for working together to put 5 Karazhan teams together that are viable for all 50 of the members. So 2 25-mans together makes 50, and 50 over 10 is 5 for 5 Karazhan teams. And you can see that in this diagram here, right? That Pod A goes down to 2 different raid teams, goes down into 5 different Karazhans. And so that is the makeup of that. So the nice thing about this, one thing we're really excited about, is that yes, you will have a static raid roster. You will raid with the same 25 people regularly for the 25-man content. You will hopefully stay with them through the entirety of the expansion. But through that, and through the 10-man program, you're also going to have the opportunity to have an extended family where you'll also be able to play with people from another 25-man, but also still linked to your raid pod. As a result of that, there's some new leadership structure. There is a new leadership position, which is the raid lead position. Initially, this diagram shows it as a 7th and independent leader. It actually will likely simply be one of the pod's team's raid leader as well. So, instead of being on the top, it'd be either on the left or the right, as in charge of Alpha 1 or Alpha 2 in this instance. The lead raid leader is just the tiebreaker on decisions that affect the pod in general. So if there's, the Karazhan group creation, they'll break the ties. If there's any other concerns that's pod level, and we'll go into some of the detail about that. What's ahead on the horizon for the rest, right? I can tell you right now that the plan is to basically get to pod Charlie and stop. But what does that mean in the meantime? So we are probably going to be doing another weekday pod as Pod Bravo. That will start shortly into the expansion once we get Pod Alpha up and running and see where we're at with our roster and our availability of leadership and all the rest. So we'll have Pod Bravo running in the not near but not too distant future. And then Pod Charlie, the intention is for that to be a weekend raid team, but a true weekend raid team. Last time around, we kind of had two odd kind of hybrid teams that affected some folks with true weekend availability designations. And so we do anticipate Pod Charlie, when it starts, to be a true weekend team running Fridays and Saturdays. And so those are kind of the raid outlook. So two weekday teams, well, two weekday pods, right? So that's 4 raid teams total. So 100 raid spots for our weekday teams, and then another 50 raid spots to be designated as our weekend raid teams following Bravo's start. So for those folks who have weekend availability, of which has been a tremendous amount of interest, kind of unanticipated, that is on the horizon for you. For folks who don't get notices on their inclusion in the Alpha Pod on the 11th, please bear in mind we're not leaving you behind. We are making plans to expand our raid program because, even with the group we have now, we know we have the skill, ability, and logistical support to be able to facilitate that. So, things to be aware of as we're moving through TBC in perhaps what I would say maybe the first 2 months of the expansion to be looking forward to. So that is, February, March, and into April. I would anticipate by the time we're into April that we are looking that we are into Pod Charlie's creation at the latest, at the very latest, at the outside of dates. That is what I'm looking to see happen. Subject to change, subject to difficulty, subject to any number of things that could go on in the world, but we'll obviously keep you informed about that promptly if it is the case. But this is our intention heading in. Next, and we're coming up on the end before we go into the Q&A section, so the end is in sight, but to talk a little bit about some of the updates to the guild and the scope. The guild is going to put out a raid manual of sorts, a guild raid rules document. This document will be a much more thorough and specific memorialization of what have been the general practices of the guild in the past. And so rather than kind of leaving it up to word of mouth or to guild meetings to recommunicate expectations, we've taken the time to develop what is, I think it's 17 pages total. But realistically, if you've rated with us before, none of it is new. And for those of you who haven't rated us with us before, I will tell you that it is available to read in its entirety, but I'm also creating a supplement to it that is a kind of a shorthand for it. So while you will be responsible for all the rules within it, I can give you a guide to at least get you up to speed on the things in short order. So it is just there to help make very clear how we operate our raids, how the guild operates relative to raiding, to give some weight and depth to some of the more amorphous concepts that are new or different to our guild than what many guilds do, to talk about loot rules, about main set over offset rules, to talk about SR rules. It is all there to talk about the chain of command, about grievance processes, about I mean, really, I do mean it. It is all manner and type of things that are addressed in this document that will be released ahead of TBC for you to review, get up to speed, or to simply refresh yourself on. but there's very few substantive changes from vanilla in this document. So if you've rated with us, none of this is going to be a surprise to you. There will be updates, but none of it's going to be surprising. There are two updates that I'm going to talk about. Well, there's a one substantive update that I'm going to mention now, and then a list of kind of the updates by virtue of the fact that we're going into a new expansion that I'll put up just to kind of tee you up to look out for this information. So the update, the only substantive update that's being really included in the uh, rules that will be published is this section for the static raid rosters that are governed by Loot Council. So these are all of our 25-person raid teams will be governed by Loot Councils with the same 3-person Loot Council using the same 4 factors for loot determination, using the same system for deliberations, using the same resources to compile the data, to create wish lists, to create sets. All of that's going to remain the same. But though we had very few across an entire expansion, there were a couple of loot issues that came up. One thing that made it really difficult to deal with often was not that there wasn't a good reason why Loot Council did what they did, not that there wasn't a sympathetic reason for the player feeling the way they did, but often because those two parties could not communicate constructively in the moment, it became contentious unnecessarily. And so this new policy that's been put into place is going to either eliminate that in its entirety or dramatically reduce it from our perspective. And that is a formalized loot grievance process that is outlined. And I will tell you right now, it will be enforced. So if you have a loot council problem going forward into TBC and you are on a static raid roster, this is the system that you will follow in order to submit your grievance and have it heard. It holds everyone to timelines, to minimum times and to maximum times, and then outlines your rights to appeal and to have the decisions reviewed. So under this section, you initially will fill out a grievance form in the server guide. You will not directly message your raid leadership. You will send a form. The form is being created by strategic planning. Guess where it's going to be posted, everyone? Yep, in the server guide under the links, apps, and resources page. So the link will be there. The uh, the grievance form will be submitted. It'll be there regularly. It'll be submitted by a player who wants to fill them out. You will not communicate directly with your raid leader in any way whatsoever directly. You will fill out this form. You will be required to wait 12 hours. You will have to wait a minimum uh, of 12 hours after the raid ends to submit this. So this is, if your raid ends at midnight, you will not be able to submit this form until noon the next day. We require this cooling off period because oftentimes in the light of morning after a cup of coffee, people remember that they're adults and that this is just a game, and relationships that have been built over months don't need to be lit aflame because of purple pixels, because what we're building here is much more important. It's community, and we want to be respectful of that and respectful of everybody related to that. Once that 12-hour window opens, you will be able to submit it. You can see that the rule doesn't outline a specific maximum time that you have, though we would expect these to be put in timely. I can tell you that if you waited like 3 weeks to complain that you didn't get a piece of loot, everyone's going to roll their eyes at you. So there is a happy middle ground there to have your complaint viewed with some level of substantive analysis. Your response window for the team will open at that point. Once you've hit submit, they will have 72 hours to respond. They will respond either with a direct message or they will schedule a voice meeting. This will be at the discretion of the team and their schedule, but will be obviously informed by your preference. Some people don't want to be in a meeting one-on-one or two-on-one or three-on-one, as it could be, depending on the team and the availability and scheduling, but would rather just get the information back in a message. And that's fine too. Sometimes Loot Council might even prefer that just to be able to write out their analysis. Other times people want to be able to hear the tone of voice and communicate a little more naturally. So that's the response in the 72 hours. That after that, you can seek review by the preceptor of strategic planning. That's Arainu. Arainu's waving over there. He's hoping nobody ever comes to talk to him. And then following that, you'd be able to have that issue brought directly to me for consideration. I will tell you that in 99%, 99.99% of situations that have come up under the Loot Council system, we have been able to resolve them just by the conversation with your Loot Council, and they really have never escalated higher than that or grown to much more than that. Again, that's like 99% of issues that we had during vanilla were resolved at that point. Oftentimes, when Loot Council explains a very reasoned, very measured approach to why they did what they did, the player is understanding, usually just really wanted a piece, but can understand the rationale at least was there. And most of the times people are happy with that. So just bear that in mind. These are the items that are kind of left up in the air as we're still moving on to consider them. The other policy announcements will include the amount in dues that are required, the consumables that will be required, the enchantment policy updates. We were a little lax on this at some points. It will probably not be the case in TBC. We will probably be monitoring that a little bit more closely. Actually, I can almost guarantee you we'll be monitoring this a little more closely. Um, the clarification to the attendance, what is actually on time and what is not, things like that. And then the designations to creating a raid group within the guild using guild resources, what it means to be in a guild group, what it means to be doing an actual pug. This created a little bit of chaos at times, but what this will be much more clarified based on the raid rules document that I'll put out. But I can tell you right now that we have loosened the grip a little bit to allow more people to create guild raid runs. But we have, because we have done that, we have done these very specific outline raid rules that anyone can read and then know what to expect and how to run a group. But we've also been very specific with our designation of a guild run and what it means to do that and use guild resources for it. And I will tell you that it essentially is, if you are using any guild resource, including the goodwill of our roster by whispering people who are in our guild or Discord direct messaging people who are in our guild to create a run, it is then deemed a guild run. So unless you are taking to trade chat or the Dream Scythe server, Discord server, or otherwise creating an independent true run where you're basically running with yourself and no one else from the guild, would it be a guild run. Under those circumstances, if you're doing it independently in that way, it would be a pug. We would not care what you're doing. And the reason is because, we realize in leadership that we're on the hook as people are creating those raid runs with our name underneath, that people expect a level of professionalism, people expect a level of success, people expect that if something goes wrong, that they're going to be able to have the kind of due process to be able to come up to a leadership member and say, hey, I have this problem, can you address it? And we also, for the person who leads the run, want to make sure that there are some safeguards for you, that you can have a set of rules that you can fall back on, that you don't have to worry about arguing with people about how to set up a run or what the loot rules should be. We've already taken care of that for you. So all that's left to do is to put a roster up. So we've outlined those steps, we've defined those groups, and we've put them into a document along with everything else that you would need to see that through. There is a minimum rank requirement. We talked about the rank requirements earlier in the meeting. So mentor is the rank in which you can start to form those groups on your own. And again, the backdrop of all of that, we need to put that against the regular guild's raid system. And so, the obviously the requirement is that those raids are not interfering with our static raid rosters and our ability to get bench players. And so, we will monitor for kind of like frequency of raids, who's running them, who benches with us, if we're short players, if we're not able to fill the 25s because we don't have enough bench, stuff like that. We'll inform that policy moving forward. But at least for right now, heading into TBC, that is what it will look like, as just one of the changes that's coming in TBC, which I didn't anticipate getting into it as in depth in this meeting, but whatever, we did it. That's all that I have for the meeting right now. That's all the substantive coverage areas that I wanted to go over. We're obviously very excited to be heading into TBC with you all. Obviously, the next guild meeting is not September 24th because I completely miffed that title on the slide and didn't add a new one in. But we'll take questions. So if I'll stay on, I have about 10 minutes that I can give you. I know we have other officers who I'm sure will be here. And so if people have questions that you'd like, whether you'd like to submit them in the chat channel, we can answer them from the chat channel. If you would like to raise your hand in Discord and request to speak, we would be more than happy to bring you up into the channel to talk in voice. You can do either, whatever works, and then I can stop talking.
We have one question there. It's is there going to be arena teams organized?
Arena teams. I thought I had heard something that they were not doing teams and they were doing a paid reset for to bring yourself up if you were under 1500 this time around, to offset that there wouldn't be like a specific like team roster, but that you could group with people. If you're talking about teams in the sense that will people be doing them in the guild, I can tell you that I will be, Minari will be. He and I both, when Missa Pandaria came out last during retail, when retail Missa Pandaria came out, he and I both hung it up in the raid context for quite a while and focused on our arena rating, running 2s, 3s, and 5s together at that point. From Mist through Warlords, and so we're excited to kind of get back into the PvP field a little bit now that the arena will be here. So there definitely will be folks who are doing that. So look out for that, because I think there was a discussion in Adept chat earlier that might have been talking about some arena. So there'll definitely be opportunities to group with raid member or guild members rather, to do that. I had Z-Talk. That's got to be my favorite, my absolute favorite comment that's ever been made in a guild meeting. I had no idea there were so many words in the English language. I take that as a tremendous compliment. It must have. It must have been when I said imprimatur earlier, right? That was the one that did it, right?
We all have to start looking up stuff in the dictionary when you talk. So
Yeah. You should have Oxford up. Oxford is my preferred dictionary. So if you're gonna look it up, keep the Merriam-Webster in the desk. Calyptra, I missed half. Was to talk about raid teams and when we should look forward to that. So Calyptra, yes, January 11th. Just in short, January 11th is the date of notices that will be sent out from guild operations, alerting people of what their character is, the team that they'll be on, and related information.
They'll also be on YouTube, correct? This will be uploaded to YouTube, so if you missed it, you can go
This
watch it
this
there.
video will be posted. Yep, so Minari has is recording for us, and so this will be posted following the meeting. Yep, so that will be available after the fact and shared. Let me see. Noko asks if there will be any more Nax raids. So we are actually looking at trying to do a sign up. We had talked about the idea of trying to get in maybe like a for the road TFS run scheduled. And so we will probably do that as a sign up. We were also thinking with the advent of shamans doing something in pre-patch, if nothing else, to do it after the pre-patch and getting back into Nax. So the answer is yes to Nax. Um, uh, and that'll be kind of just governed with the raid finder system for a sign up. We're not gonna do required runs, obviously. That we have we put a pause to our raid program pending TBC, but for signups, we'll definitely facilitate that. Now that strategic planning is getting going, in consultation with player development, we can make that work.
Do you know? Is there a question of do you know what time weekend team would raid on Fridays?
So Gilliant, I don't have the exact. I don't have the exact time, and the reason is because we're going to leave that at the we try to, when we create teams, facilitate based on the responses we get and people's availability, putting the maximum number of people on teams that fit their schedule. And so, if we see that the 9 p.m. start fits for everybody, it may be that. If we see that there are only like 2 people that can make that and everybody else wants 7, we might facilitate that. There's some benefit to keeping the times consistent from a leadership perspective, because we often do our department meetings and other kind of workshop groups for guild work just before those kickoffs. So, oftentimes when a raid starts at 9, Loot Council meets at 8, or guild operations, or what have you. So we try maybe to keep the raid teams on a consistent schedule for that reason, but where we're not anticipating raiding 7 days a week, maybe in TBC, at least not at start or for a little while. We might be a little more open on the flexibility for time to accommodate the survey responses that we're getting back. Kernlock says,
Plans
"What
for
is?"
the plans
Yeah,
for the
no, you got
angry.
it. Yeah, plans for angry. So right now, the guild is still there. It's still available to join. You can still request for an invitation. The channel's still in the Discord. It got moved, and that was my bad. I have to move it back. But the channel's still there in the Discord. I will tell you that obviously with things needing to be kind of gotten back up to a certain level and situated ahead of TBC, Angry has not been our #1 priority. It's actually been getting the Adorable and the aspiring guilds back up to 100%. If you guys have been on in the guild in the last couple of days, you'll probably have noticed that both guilds went from about 400 active members up to close to 900 or 1,000. So the baby guilds are alive and well. Yes, I am the culprit. I am the guild recruiter, as well as the dictionary lover, or whatever the hell Park called me out on. Um, so that is my fault that you're now surrounded by all these lovely people to level with. Um, we anticipate keeping those numbers up. I think somebody much earlier had asked about a spot where their shamans could level. You'll be welcome to join either of those leveling guilds. We do regular purges if they hit cap. We have a another guild ready to go, which is technically Ask 2. It is the Adept Scholar Society, not the Adept Scholars Society. The plural is the main guild, and the singular is our alternate guild. We will use that as an overflow if we don't have enough room to keep people to going with the team, and we're doing that specifically in the knowledge that we know that that group finder add-on is dependent on being in the guild, and so we want to make sure everyone's got a spot that needs one. But we would be very surprised to find that you were getting a character made and didn't have room to put it into one of the baby guilds or into one of the main guilds right now. But we will address that as the time comes. So don't worry about that too much.
It's not a bad idea, Corinne.
What's that?
Corinne's idea, alternate scholar society.
Alternate. I know. I actually had considered that. I think alternate is puts us at letter cap. I'd have to do Alt Scholar Society, but you know, honestly, might be worth at this point just making it. The Missy has when that guild be active. So Ask 2 is already active. It's already available. But we're not going to activate it until we see a need based on our recruitment levels. So, you know, right now it is aspiring, adorable, and adept are the three, and the only three that will be taking members. So, you know, don't worry about that. GSC, you're asking about the availability of coaching or training heading up to TBC and where to find that. When you join the server, you should have been asked to request to select a specific class which you're playing. You'll want to go into your class channel in Discord. You can ask in there. We are reassigning our class coaches. When we see, we kind of go through a very short phase in the beginning where people are kind of picking up the duties of that on a you know case by case basis because we want to see people's performance before we assign the coaching role. So very early on in TBC, we will assign those. Those will be posted again. That links apps and resources page will have a list of all the class coaches that you can go to, and then they'll also be monitoring those class channels. That'll be part of their job is for when a question goes there, that's where they're going to head to answer your question. But just as we're heading in, you know, we'll reassess class coaches early in the expansion once we see what people can do with these classes and specs that they may not have been on before. I thought I had missed one question. Will the 11th, yeah, Skills Audit asked a great question. Will the 11th DM be considering our second class pick, or will it be related to our first choice? The 11th will be a message related to your placement on a team in general. If you were a TFS member. So just to clarify that, that's a really good point. If you were a member of the flagship raid team of our Nax raid team, we are going to give you a first notification of the class and spec. Having said that, there are only 40 people. There are only 40 people on a raid team in vanilla, and we have 50 spots to give away. Naturally, and resultantly, we will have more people to add to the team. So others may be notified on the 11th of their placement on a team. We will not message everyone on a survey independently and say, hey, we didn't give you a spot yet on the 11th. We will notify 100% of TFS roster members, and we will notify everybody who will have a roster spot in Pod Alpha on the 11th. We will put out an announcement on the 11th once all notices have been sent, so that you're not just like watching your inbox with bated, just waiting around all day trying to hope that it comes in. We will tell you at what point in time all notices have been sent out, so you can either check your Discord message or know that you'll very likely be in Pod Bravo when Pod Bravo launches. And in days to follow, guild operations will reach out to you. But as far as that 11th deadline, where we're going to have like 50 messages to send out and communications happening with folks, those conversations will be our priority in that day once we get things finalized. No, there were other questions here. Mentioned leveling out of the gate into TBC. Is there a recommended way to go in order to get ready for raid quicker? So if you're talking about in terms of TBC leveling specifically, Shivers, which on quick read it sounds like that's the case. The recommended way to level in TBC is to do so using dungeons. It is two reasons. Number one, if you were to complete the quests first when you got up in reputation, the regular raid instances would no longer give you rep. So I believe after friendly, the regular raid stopped, regular dungeon stopped giving you reputation, and so the quests will continue to always give you rep though. So you'll be able to use the dungeon grind to get your rep up to basically honored, and then use your questing to facilitate your reputation grind up to revered, which is where you'll need to be for your initial account heroic key. So that's important to be mindful of in terms of those reputation grinds that are going to be coming up for you. There's another half of that exists, which is the epic flying mount farm, right? So it's about, I think, 6,000 gold between the bird and the skill. And if you hit 70 before having completed the quests, the quest turn in is gold rather than experience. And the amount of gold that you get from doing those quests at 70 is pretty significant when you're doing them en masse. And so it's a really solid gold farm in order to get yourself that mount early on in the expansion. So twofold, both reputationally and being raid ready, because obviously getting into heroics is the critical first step for being ready with Prebis, and then also is inherently necessary for the raid attunements themselves, and then the second half of that being your gold considerations for the questing. It's also a great community building exercise. Very excited to get in there with a bunch of five person teams with all of you and playing with some of you. And again, building those relationships much like we did at the beginning of Vanilla for those who were here, or for those of you who may remember what that's like at the beginning of an expansion. It's a very fun time to be a member of a community of this scale with this level of care and commitment in our members. So we're really excited about that.
Misty was asking, she didn't list Resto on her survey. Does she need to change it?
Didn't list Resto. If you have a situation where your survey result or submission doesn't match your actual willingness, and I will say that in the additive or subtractive sense after this meeting. So if you want to add an availability or willingness to play something or remove something that on second thought you've decided, and I'm going to get punched for opening up this can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you that there's a time where we will not be able to consider those because of the timing that we'll need to actually make sure that these are ready to go up for the 11th. But and she has no idea I'm about to do this, but I'm going to tell you right now that our preceptor of player development, Siva, would be the person to send a DM to in order to communicate that change for the TBC roster, right, Siva? She's like, because she doesn't even know this is happening right now. Yeah. She's gonna come back to like 50 DMs in her inbox.
I posted it in chat, but yes, that's okay. Message me.
All right. This is the good thing about being a preceptor now, right? You just get signed up without knowing. I also
Surprise.
want to just add one thing, because I don't want to give a false impression. I'd mentioned on the 11th the message is going out prioritizing TFS members. I'm also giving a second look over the document to address those people who were put on a priority bench status towards the end of vanilla for us. So people who have a history, a long and dedicated and much appreciated history of having raided with the guild. I don't want you to think that you'll be waiting up for a message that'll never come. Having said that, if you have questions, you can always just reach out. But I do want to make that clarification that those of you who are on a priority bench status will be included in that list of people who will be communicated with that day, because we don't want to run into a situation where you were thinking you were still just waiting around for that letter. And I appreciate all of the mailbox memes. The Charlie Brown was my favorite, so whoever posted that one,
You're
A
welcome.
plus. Oh, never mind. B minus. It's Park. All right, last call then, because we are getting on in the night, and I don't want to keep people up, even though everybody here knows that I'd talk and never end it. But I'll do 1 second for any final questions that you might have. This is the part where you really should think long and hard before you want to ask the question, though, because everybody else will be pissed that you prolong the meeting. Seeing none, I want to welcome everybody back to the new year. I want to thank everybody for being here in the guild, the folks who have stuck around, who saw through a very successful vanilla program, who are just as dedicated for starting off TVC on the right foot. We are going to expect all good things coming up in the year ahead, and when they aren't good, you know that we will approach it with the same level of care and professionalism that we have in all ways, in all manners, over the last 15 months of this guild. And so very excited for what's to come. Want to thank all of my professors and preceptors, new and old, who are here to help support in these tasks. And then thank you all for being here tonight, for taking the care and attention, for listening in. And TVC awaits. This about to be go time, everybody. So make sure you're resting up, and we're going to hit the ground running. 13th, make sure you join us for the Patch Notes and Pints events. And then in the meantime, be looking out for announcements to come, and I will speak to everybody soon. With that, we're going to end the meeting. Folks can retire to the lobby to shoot the shit. I might pop in with you for a minute, but otherwise I will catch up with you all at some point down the road. Have a good night, everybody.